Ubuntu Maker Canonical is the first gold sponsor of the Trifecta Tech Foundation at roughly 40,000 euro per year. Now, what is the purpose of the Trifecta Tech Foundation? Well, simple. To replace existing software with Rust-based clones. Yeah, you thought, wow, Ubuntu couldn't drink the Rust Kool-Aid any more than they already had. Well, Ubuntu just said, hold my beer. They're talking about specifically Rust-developed replacements, like drop-in replacements for sudo, NTPD, and a bunch of others. Now, in practice, thus far, the various Rust clone replacements that Ubuntu has begun shipping for the GNU core utils and others has been, well, a problem. They have been taking away features from users, adding in new compatibility and security issues by the truckloads, I mean dozens of security issues alone, while providing absolutely no noteworthy fixes or improvements. None at all. It's ridiculous. Ridiculous. Quote, the adoption of sudo rs by default in Ubuntu 26.04 LTS signaled a shift from experimental feature to new security baseline, said Ubuntu's VP of Engineering. Friggin' ridiculous. This happened on June 30th, so this just happened a couple days ago. Canonical is pleased to announce it's now a gold sponsor of the Trifecta Tech Foundation. Let me show you the picture of their sponsor page here. They're the first gold sponsor. Their silver sponsors are Amazon and Google. If you go to the Trifecta Tech Foundation's website, once you stop throwing up in your mouth a little bit, they talk about how they're making Rust faster than C, or at least making that a goal is to make Rust faster than C. And then they talk about their projects like sudo-rs and NNTPD-rs and zlib-rs. You know, it's just replacing existing functionality with Rust-based clones. Take something that exists, is well developed, well tested, and shipping in enterprise grade, high uptime, mission critical systems, toss it out into the garbage and replace it with something that isn't that well tested using a programming language that itself is not yet stable. I mean, that's just the way it is. It doesn't have a stable ABI yet. It's not stable. It's changing rapidly. It's ridiculous. These are not engineering decisions. Like no engineer would make these decisions from an engineering point of view. It's utterly preposterous. Not that you couldn't develop anything you want in Rust. That's fine. You can develop it for whatever reason you want. You're like, well, I don't like C, so I'm going to develop it in Rust. Great, do it. But why would you ship it? Why would you make that your focus? And that's what Ubuntu is doing here. They're shipping this stuff before it has any chance of being ready, before the product itself is ready, before the compiler it's based on is ready, and before the language that the compiler uses is ready. That's 3 layers of shifting sand. Oh my heavens. From the Canonical blog, the next phase in the collaboration with this Trifecta Tech Foundation will focus on the adoption of NTPD-rs as a default time synchronization client and server in Ubuntu. Canonical aims to introduce NTPD-rs for testing in Ubuntu 26.10, making it a default feature in Ubuntu 27.04. And they're already talking about making all the GNU core util rewrites a default in just a couple of months here. Are they ready? No. Admittedly, from Ubuntu's own developers and their own paid research people that they had to do studies on it's absolutely not ready. They're doing it anyway. Why? Because it's not an engineering decision. It's a religious decision. It's a political decision, and that's weird. With the support from the Trifecta Tech Foundation, the transition will deliver GPSD IP socket support, multi-blah, blah, 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 blah. Basically just, they're rewriting it and they're shipping it by default. They're gonna continue the leadership of memory-safe alternatives to critical software. If they keep saying that, are people going to think, oh my gosh, Everything's on tape. Oh my gosh. All software is super unsafe. It's so unsafe. It's gonna be if you get accidentally cut by some software, you're gonna die because it's not memory safe. Like, no, come on, guys. This is shipping software we're replacing. This is not just shipping software. Long time shipping software developed over the course of, in some cases, decades, not talking about a few months here, decades for some of this software. I mean, come on. How long has sudo been friggin' around? How long has most of those core utilities, how long have they been around? My Lord. And not only that has been shipping a long time, it has been carefully tested on a huge variety of very specific edge and corner cases in order to work on as wide a variety of systems and very, very mission critical environments as humanly possible. And it's shipping on so many millions of systems. And we're just going to toss it all out and say, never mind, we're going to ship the not yet stabilized ABI language and compiler, and then the clone that we developed in a handful of months. We're just going to ship that instead. But why? And again, this is Ubuntu spending 40,000 euro per year replacing something that works and works well, not works kinda, works incredibly well. So well it has formed the very basis of our systems on Linux and regular and Linux type machines for decades. And we're going to just toss it out and replace it with something that doesn't work as well, isn't fully compatible, doesn't contain all the features, and admittedly has more security bugs. So it's less secure, it's less stable, has less features, is more incompatible. And those are just the problems we know about. Oh my word. It's infuriating, except it's also hilarious. No engineer with any level of experience, would make these decisions on an engineering basis. That means, without a doubt, the decision-making process here is not an engineering one. I can't stress this enough. And people can come to their own conclusions about what the motivation here is. But it's not an engineering motivation. It's not a customer-facing motivation. It's not a business decision motivation in terms of making your customer happy. If it's a business motivation, it's something else. Could it be political? Could it be religious? Because yes, Rust is a cult. It is a religion. How many people do you catch in the Rust world who can't help themselves, and they have an almost Tourette's-like tick to telling you about memory safety? When people rewrite things in Rust or write new pieces of software in Rust, a lot of times they'll tell you that it's written in Rust before they tell you what kind of software it is. They'll be like, gee, wag, a Rust-based solution for, and then they'll tell you what it does. Because in their mind, the important thing is not what the software does. The important thing is not the problem the software causes, or even the systems that the software runs upon, or the license that the software has, though that may be a part of it. The core issue, the core driving motivation is that it's written in Rust. Why? We've covered this a lot over the last couple of years, and it's been ramping up and building to a head this year explicitly. Ask why, and be skeptical about it, because it's not an engineering decision. This is utterly preposterous. So yeah, there you go. Good job, Canonical. Spending money. Definitely not for engineering purposes. Something else. Thank you to the Lunduke Journal subscribers for allowing me to do this sort of coverage. Thank you for supporting the work of the Lunduke Journal so that I don't have to take even a single penny from a big company. Because if I did, I would not be able to take money. I would not be able to report on Canonical or Red Hat or Microsoft or any of these other corporations doing this crazy weird stuff. I wouldn't be able to do it because they would stop paying me and I'd be out of business. But because all of you keep the lights on at the Lunduke Journal, I can say whatever I want. I can cover any story wherever it friggin' goes. Thank you to all of the subscribers, monthly, yearly, and lifetime. Lifetime subscribers get on the lifetime subscriber walls of shame, which there are now 17 of. They're not all full. Was it 14 of them are full? Riveting. So many walls. There's so many of you. It makes me, it blows my mind. It blows my mind and makes me at a loss for words. How many of you email in every single day and are like, yeah, put me on the wall, man. Some of you don't want to use your full name because you're afraid you're going to get yelled at work or when you're in your project. I had a guy, this is a semi-true story, and this is going to cause a whole lot of weird emails to go around, but he said I could mention the story as long as I don't mention his name. I got a guy who is very, very high up in the GNOME project, right? And he's been a long-time subscriber. He's sent things over to me before, and he said, you know what, put me on the wall, but we're going to use a code name. And if you look at the Ubuntu 4.10 wall, he's on there. He'll never figure it out, but he's on there. And he's like, I can't use my real name or the handles that I normally use because they'll kick me out of the GNOME project. GNOME literally has a rule against even mentioning mentioning Lunduke because it's a lifetime ban from GNOME, even for major contributors and package maintainers. If you link to Lunduke and post about it in the forum or mailing list or whatever, it's considered like a capital offense, like be put to death for it almost. And he's like, look, you know, I want to be on the wall anyway. I still want to support you. And he's like, when I'm no longer working on the GNOME stuff, I'll put my real name on one of them. So we got a couple of walls open right now. If you want to get your name on some of the lifetime subscriber walls, there's the Emacs and Vim wall. Those are going to be full maybe sometime tomorrow. So it's July 3rd right now. Neither of the wall is full yet, but they're getting close. It is not terribly far apart. It is not as lopsided as I thought it would be. But one of them is ahead, and I can't tell you which one it is, but if you want to get on either the Emacs or Vim wall, you'll want to email in quickly. So if you already have a lifetime subscription, just email in. All my contact info is all up at lunduke.com. If you scroll up at lunduke.com, there's a little need to contact Lunduke. You can contact me a couple of different ways there. And tell me how you want your name displayed and which of those two walls you want to be on if you want to be on one of those two. It might fill up on the 4th of July, which would be kind of cool. But if things go a little slower because it's the 4th of July and maybe everyone's out actually having a barbecue or something, which go have a barbecue, it'll probably be more like Sunday, July 5th. But either way, I would be really surprised if we make it through the weekend without this having a definitive conclusion of either Emacs or Vim being the first to fill up. And I'll let everyone know early this next week. I'll post it all up at lunduke.com with exactly how many days and hours it took to fill up each of the walls. Lifetime subscriptions are discounted, so if you don't have a lifetime subscription yet, you can grab one. It's $125 for life. I've been doing this for years. Lifetime subscriptions alone have been going for over 4 years now. I've been covering Linux and related work for over 20 years now. So a lifetime subscription's a pretty good bet at this point. I mean, even if it dies when I die, right? It's a pretty good bet I'm going to be doing this for a while. I really like this line of work. I like what I do now more than I ever have, and I've been doing it for over 20 years. So Yeah, it's a good investment. Normally it's a lot more than that, but it's discounted through the end of July because I want to fill up as many of these lifetime walls as I can. We're currently up to 17 of them. The Ubuntu 4.10 wall, I just showed you guys that. It's already full. The 17th wall is the Desqview X wall. Awesome. I mean, the Emacs and Vim wall, that's awesome. That's tons of fun. The Desqview X wall, that's just so choice. DOS, Desqview, X11 server and client that you can connect to a Linux one. It's got friggin' X eyes with a DOS multitasking system, and it can run Windows 3.1. What a weird operating system. Awesome. If you want to get your name on that one, it's the 17th wall. Again, just email in and let me know. If you don't have a lifetime subscription, go ahead and grab one. I'll provide a link to this document I'm showing you right now, wherever you're getting the show, or you can just go to lunduke.com, scroll down a little bit. There's a little 50% off yearly and massively discounted lifetime subs through July 31st link. That'll give you the details on how to pull all that off. Man. These Rust stories are crazy. The decision-making that is going into so many of these Rust projects and whatnot is just so utterly bizarre. It causes a sort of cognitive dissonance. Like, it just makes your brain melt a little bit. So weird. But thank you for allowing me to cover all this. I couldn't do it without you. All of you amazing subscribers. You're the best. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, nerds and nerdettes, across the vast, glorious, and one day, hopefully, a bit more rust-free inner tubes, I do declare, end broadcast.